Okay, I'd like to call the meeting of the Planning Board for September 13th to order. Roll call.
Member Callahan present.
Member Ryan present.
Member Barry present. Member Mead present. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any meeting. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived, by those present, and are deemed acknowledgeable and permissible. The Planning Board general rules for meetings. The Planning Board reserves the right to administer oaths, summons witnesses, call for production of papers, cross-examine any person giving testimony during the proceedings, declare recess, limit debate, inspect the subject site or buildings during reasonable hours, and adjourn the hearing for cause. The order of business will be announced by the chair. Any questions will be directed to the chair. Any person wishing to speak, please raise your hand for recognition from the chair. When recognized, please stand, state name and address, specific interest in the proceedings, and special credentials, if any, pertaining to the presentation. Please speak slowly and within the context of the hearing matter. Hearing is being stenographed and taped for public record. The Planning Board reserves the right to exclude any unnecessary, irrelevant, repetitive, or harassing presentations. Cross-examination between parties in interest or other persons may be permitted only after due consideration from the chair. All documents, papers, and plans introduced in the hearing shall be clearly identified by name or some other designation, and the person so introducing them shall be identified by name and address. A Planning Board exhibit letter will be assigned to each submittal unless the submittal has been specifically identified by exhibit letter. When excerpts from case law are cited, the complete text of findings shall be furnished to the Planning Board within 14 days. Okay, those are the guidelines. The first item is to accept the minutes from the July 19th meeting.
I'll make a motion to accept. Second.
Discussion, all those in favor? Aye. Okay, the first item on our agenda is the just there. I get that. Okay, sorry. The first item on our agenda is a continued public hearing, 54 Massachusetts Avenue / 15 Glenwood Way, the Buddhist Learning Center, Planning Board case 2017-04, continued from the July 19th, 2017 meeting. We are in receipt of a letter addressed to the director, request for withdrawal without prejudice. As you know, our office represents Massachusetts Buddhist Society, Inc., with regard to the application for site plan review for its proposed Buddhist Cultural Learning Center at 54 Massachusetts Avenue and 15 Glenwood Way. Please accept this letter as a formal request by the applicant to withdraw the above matter without prejudice for consideration by the City of Quincy Planning Board. Thank you in advance for your consideration, Robert J. Fleming, Jr. I'd entertain a motion to approve the withdrawal without prejudice.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor? Aye. It's unanimous. Okay, the next item is the public hearing for 91 McGrath Highway and 5 Brackett Street, Planning Board case 2017-08, continued also from the July 19th, 2017. Council?
If I may, the public hearing is still considered open. Councilor Forrest had called me about an hour ago to make a comment, if I may.
On her behalf?
On her behalf, yes.
I didn't know you needed her permission to make a comment.
I just wanted to be clear that this is Councilor Forrest. Unfortunately, as you may or may not know, Councilor Hughes' dad passed away last night. terrible timing, obviously, the election and so forth. So she is covering an event for Councilor Hughes tonight, but she asked me to come forward and on her behalf support, give a statement of support on the project on McGrath Highway, and just to remind the board that she does support the project, and that's really the bulk of what she asked me to say. That she regretted her inability to be here tonight, but did want to make that statement.
Okay.
That's all.
Thank you. Before Chris speaks, anybody else wishing to speak? Come on up.
Good evening. My name is Steve Perdios. I live at 86 Ruggles Street, Quincy, and I guess I'm not speaking, against the project. I guess I've lived in the neighborhood my whole life and down the point, and gone past this property at least twice a day for 40 years, more than 40 years. So, an improvement to the site is obviously encouraged, and I'm thrilled that they're going to do something to improve it. However, I guess I'm here to ask your board, this board, about something called Chapter 91. Now, I know it's generally considered to be more of a, it's administered by DEP, which is generally wetlands, which is generally conservation. However, I've sort of been watching this project sort of tangentially, and I've kind of known that there was something going on here. I haven't even had time to really get into the drawings of it, but I do know that Townbrook has been overlooked for a long, long time, and Townbrook runs right alongside this. A little history to try to get more to my point of what I'm getting at is, several years ago, I worked with a team of citizens to try to encourage the city to do something with a bit more of a public entity down in the downtown area. And through that effort, had talked to a lawyer from the Conservation Law Foundation. He kind of turned me on to the Chapter 91 and how it has jurisdiction over not only, we think of Chapter 91 as providing public access along Boston, along the ocean side. Chapter 91 is also for rivers and streams that also have a significant amount of money invested in the stormwater control, and the Townbrook sort of meets that jurisdiction. So what I have to pass along to you tonight is a document that was created by the previous planning director, Director Harrington, the gentleman here, his dad put it together, and it says that this property here is within the jurisdiction of the Chapter 91, is within Chapter 91 jurisdiction. So my request to the committee is that we encourage the developer to pursue a Chapter 91 permit. And what that is a permit you go through. Chapter 91 office is a division of DEP at the state level. So I'm here tonight to ask the board and the developer to please put together an application to Chapter 91. And typically what this results in is public access, having walkways that go along the waterfront. And if you learn a little bit of what Chapter 91 is, you go back through time. This is about providing the public's right to the waterfront. We all have a particular right to the waterfront. This has been held up in the courts of Massachusetts for years. It's been a pretty well-established law. So all I'm asking is that, if you do approve this project tonight, that you add a condition in there that they pursue a Chapter 91 permit, or a letter from the Chapter 91 office saying it's not applicable. So I have a document here. I'm sorry, I only have 3 copies. Can I give these to you guys now?
Sure.
We have 3, but we want that. There's a map in the back of that, and it shows that the jurisdiction of Chapter 91 is the gray kind of yellow area right on your right hand there, Cole. Yeah, that whole area there. So according to this document that was put together in 2011, that area is falls under the jurisdiction of the Chapter 91 office, and so it's never been a showstopper. Chapter 91 is something that just requires public access. So if they have parking along the river, they may have to adjust the parking a little bit, things like that to provide a walkway. Certainly, if you've ever walked around the waterfront in downtown Boston, you can walk from the aquarium all the way into South Boston, and you've got these nice 10, 12, 15-foot wide walkways that allow the public. And it's a big deal there in Boston. I think Cork has done this over near a little bit closer to the Southern Tide Mill. They had to do this a number of years ago. And it's simply a walkway along the river so that you can have the public can continue to appreciate the town work. In this case, it would be a huge improvement because much of this, nobody has any access to the town work. You can't even see it, so other than rated Elm. So I just asked the committee to consider making a conditional that they address it. It is a state law, so I know you guys probably don't have direct authority over that. However, I think that in light of this information, I would think that ethically we'd want to make sure the developers providing meeting all the state laws to it. And I just gave it to the Chris Harrington here tonight. I called him earlier. I didn't want to blindside him. I didn't mean to just jump in and give it to him tonight. I called it, hoped that I could talk to him about it beforehand. I just came across this document today, so hopefully the applicant will submit a request for determination to the state. So, thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Steve. Anybody else wishing to speak?
How you doing tonight, John Raphael, 62 Grimwell Road. I just want to say that I'm in favor of this project. It's actually, it could be much denser. I'm glad to see a project come in that's actually not this dense. So Mr. Quirk has presented a very good project here to the community, and I just want to get on the record that I'm in favor of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay. Council?
Mr. Chairman, good evening. For the record, Christopher Harrington. My law office is at 21 McGrath Highway, and I represent Daniel Quirk, who's the owner of this property. We were here before you in July. We made a full presentation of this project. We talked about Conservation Commission permit that's already been issued for this project, as well as the Zoning Board of Appeals permit. We described the building, the site plan, the improvements to the site, traffic impacts, lighting impacts, everything. At that time, the peer review was still ongoing with the city's peer review engineer. Since that meeting, the peer review engineer's comment letters have been received and all the questions have been answered by Mr. Burke, with all of his responses to the questions that were raised by the peer review engineer. I believe the most recent letter that came from the peer review engineer a few weeks ago stated that all their questions had been answered and that there were no remaining outstanding issues. At this point, we're ready to ask you to vote to approve this project. In terms of the issue with the Chapter 91 license, this project, we filed a notice of intent back in July, which was filed with the Quincy Conservation Commission. That notice of intent was forwarded and also filed with Mass DEP. And at that time, Mass DEP did not raise any Chapter 91 issues that we had to comply with when we went before the Conservation Commission in July, and also the city's Conservation Commission also didn't raise any issues. Chapter 91 does require public access with a Chapter 91 license is issued for the site. Our site is a previously developed site that is already close to the edge of the town river. We're pulling our project back further away from the river than what's currently there now. And so when we went to the Conservation Commission, under the Rivers Act, we had to meet the criteria that if you're dealing with a previously developed parcel, you cannot be any closer to the river than what's already there, which we're not. And you have to improve the existing conditions. So the improvement of the existing conditions that we submitted to the Conservation Commission is, number one, on this side of the property. We've got our landscaping plan calls for us to remove all the invasive species that are growing along this side of the river, from here at Elm Street all the way back to this corner, and then replant it with native riverfront species. So it's a little difficult to see because the edge of the back of the town brook is right here, this light line. Our property actually doesn't go all the way to the edge of the bank. So the city of Quincy owns this land through here, even the city of Quincy or the Commonwealth, that runs all the way along here, that's actually the very edge of the river. So in our plan, we proposed that we would clean it all the way to the edge of the river, even including the land that doesn't belong to us. But our project stops here at the property line, which is away from the edge of the bank. So the improvements that we proposed were, number one, the old cab building was right here, close to the edge of the property, moving all of that away. Also, the cab company and the other parking lots that are here now don't have proper stormwater management structures built into them. And so when it rains, untreated stormwater runoff from this property just runs toward the river, it just runs into the town brook. So with this project, with the parking lot being here, with the curb and the catch basins, all the water from this site gets capped, cannot run into the river, gets captured here, goes through treatment facilities as well as infiltration facilities, and then the treated water dumps into the city system in Brackett Street. So our position is that the project does comply with the Wetlands Protection Act. It does comply with all the requirements for the Conservation Commission and DEP. And that order of conditions, in fact, is already issued. It was issued in July. The appeal period has already expired on it. And that's the body that has the jurisdiction over Chapter 91 and putting some kind of Chapter 91 condition. We're certainly willing to look into this issue and contact the DEP and talk to them about it. But with all due respect to this board, we don't think it's the planning board's place to put a Chapter 91 condition on a license. Thank you.
I neglected to read a piece of an email that was sent to the department. Actually, it was sent to Constable Forrest. I saw the article in the Ledger about Quirk's plans for a new Mazda dealership next door. Do you know if the plan includes the old WJDA building parcel? As you know, Town Brookhouse borders Quirk's property. So I just wanted to pass along a couple of questions or issues. I've contacted Quirk in the past, and they have done some work, but there are still some items that might be good to include in the upcoming plans if they aren't already included. One is there are two large dead trees along a property, meaning property being the Town Brookhouse, with the old WJDA building. There was a third large tree near the brook that looks unhealthy. Number three, the fence along the property line is very old and in bad shape. We support the coming plans and upgrades to the neighborhood. We also are a little concerned about issues on our property. Sincerely, Tim Wismar, who is the executive director for the Town Brookhouse. Okay, not seeing any.
Mr. Chairman, I forwarded that email to Dan Quirk back when it was written.
Yep.
And I think that he's already corrected all the items that he was talking about in that letter.
Oh, good, because you're right, it's dated July 20th. Yeah, thank you. Entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Just have a few questions.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I appreciate Mr. Perdios raising this issue about the Chapter 91 license, and this is the first that I've heard of it. And so, just have a few questions because of the fact that I understand what you're saying, Mr. Harrington, that it's not the purview of the board to force you guys down this road, and so I don't think I have any intention to do that. But we do have an interesting opportunity of a natural resource that had previously been in bad shape because of the existing use. You guys are obviously mitigating what was happening there, but still, as far as I can see, doesn't really open that stretch of Town Brook to public access. As you know, we have the Community Preservation Act in Quincy, and part of my role on the planning board, I sit on the Community Preservation Committee. And based on what Mr. Perdio said, I think that there may be an opportunity here for your client to perhaps work with a group in the city who is interested in taking on this project. And so just as a response to Mr. Perdios coming in and raising this issue, which I think is important as a concept of always looking for ways to take our natural resources and expand their access to the public, I would just suggest that you perhaps mention to your client that there may be groups in Quincy that would like to talk to him about possibilities to, in an unobtrusive way, see if there's a way that the town brook can be utilized to a better extent.
I'd be happy to. And as I mentioned when I was talking about the landscaping plan, is that some of the land that's along the edge of the town brook through here actually is already public land. It doesn't belong to Quirk. So it's possible that after he's done this cleanup and the replanting, that's possible there might be enough land along there to put in a walkway.
Yeah, yeah.
It's okay.
Thank you.
Before I go any further, I've got a roll call for our member that we missed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize for being late. Member Lynn present.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll go back to my request to close the public hearing.
So moved.
And second.
Discussion, all those in favor? Aye. Department have a recommendation?
Yes, based on the City of Quincy interdepartmental review and the outside peer reviewer, the department recommends that the board approve the special permits under Quincy zoning ordinance Title 17 under sections 9.4 special permits, 3.13 major non-residential use, 5.117 parking waiver, and 5.26 loading facilities, subject to the following conditions. On the conditions, number one, the applicant shall adhere to all comment letters issued by the city departments and peer review consultants, including A, Department of Public Works review letters dated June 26, 2017 and September 7, 2017. B, city's engineering peer review consultant, EBI Consulting, review letters dated June 29, 2017 and August 30th, 2017. Condition number two, the applicant shall replace the existing sidewalk with a newly constructed sidewalk of bituminous concrete that meets ADA, AAB requirements along applicant's property frontage on Brackett Street. Item number three, applicant shall be required to obtain any necessary sewer connection permit and street opening permits from the Department of Public Works prior to the issuance of a building permit. Condition number four, the applicant shall submit a construction management plan to the Inspectional Services Department at the time a demolition permit and the building permit application is filed. Condition number five, the applicant shall develop and submit a dust control plan to the Department of Health for review and approval prior to any site activity. Said dust control plan is to be implemented during any site activities to ensure compliance with state air quality regulations. Condition number six, the applicant shall develop a rodent control contingency plan prior to the commencement of construction activities on site, which will include the name and contact information for an on-call pest control company. Said rodent control plan shall be developed and submitted to the Department of Health for review and approval prior to obtaining their building permits. Condition number seven, the stormwater operation and maintenance plan shall be recorded at the Norfolk County Registry of Deeds. Condition number eight, upon completion of the project, the applicant shall furnish to the planning department and city engineer office the digital file as-built plans showing all utilities, building footprints, reference bounds, and benchmarks defining the total site, facilities, and rights of way. Condition number nine, at any point during construction, the applicant shall allow the City of Quincy and/or a city's designated representative to enter the site for the purpose of making observations as to the compliance of site construction with the approved site plans and conditions of approval. Condition number 10, the applicant shall allow the City of Quincy and/or the city's agent to enter the applicant's property with reasonable notice in order to provide for maintenance activities in the town brook. And condition number 11, the hours for construction activities and delivery of materials will be as follows: 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Saturday. All construction deliveries shall be prohibited on Sunday unless same are approved by the Chief of Police for Sunday activity.
Thank you, Jim. One other item that I neglected to mention, some correspondence from Chris Iannuzzi, who was with EBI, who was our peer reviewer. Due to a scheduling conflict, a representative from EBI will not be able to attend tonight's planning board meeting. However, we have reviewed the project's site plans, stormwater report, revisions, comment responses, and other documentation provided by the applicant's civil engineer, Cassell, Burke and Associates, and find that the project has been designed in conformance with the City of Quincy's guidelines and consistent with the site plan approval process. We thank the board for this opportunity to provide the peer review services. And it's from Chris Iannuzzi, who's the PE with EBI, which is essentially council that represented that. This just confirms it. Okay, we've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there a discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That is the only item that's left on the agenda. I would just ask Maureen Lynn, our next meeting is scheduled for the 11th of October. Remember, Barry has a problem with it. It's asked that we move it to the 18th, if indeed we have a meeting. Does that present a problem?
No.
Okay. So, if we do meet again, Mr. Director, we'll meet on October 18th as opposed to October 11th. Before everybody leaves, I need you to sign some paper. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Great. That other guy, what was his name?
Okay, Chris.
Dave Chris.